Welcome to World Information HD, your go-to source for uncovering the hidden stories behind history's most fascinating treasures. Today, we're diving into a world where a humble 1-cent coin, just 1 cent, can be worth millions. That's right, some Lincoln Wheat Pennies, minted between 1909 and 1958, have become numismatic legends due to rare minting errors, super low mintages, and priceless provenance. In this video, we'll count down the top 15 most valuable of these rare Lincoln pennies, error coins, double dies, and accidental bronze strikes, the kind that make collectors gasp when they appear in auctions.so. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or just sorting through your old change, stay tuned. You might just be sitting on a fortune. Today's journey takes us back to an era of resilience, change, and remarkable craftsmanship. We're exploring one of the most intriguing coins ever struck for everyday use, the United States of America 1939 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny. This little piece of copper may seem ordinary at first glance, but if you're holding one or thinking of checking your pocket change, your old jars, or the dusty drawers in your childhood home, you might be surprised by how much this coin could be worth. Collectors around the world are still searching for well-preserved examples of this coin because it carries both historical significance and impressive monetary value. Let's take a deep dive into why this penny stands out, what makes it desirable, and how you can determine the worth of the 1939 no-mint mark wheat cent sitting in your collection. Our story begins at the end of the turbulent 1930s, a decade marked by economic depression, global uncertainty, and the slow but determined rise of American recovery. In 1939, the United States Mint in Philadelphia produced millions of Lincoln Wheat pennies without a mint mark. These coins were not made for collectors at the time. They were made for circulation, coins to pass through the hands of workers, farmers, shopkeepers, children buying candy, and families stretching every cent they had. The design of the coin remained the same familiar wheat penny style that Americans had grown to recognize and trust since 1909. On the obverse side, Abraham Lincoln's profile appears with quiet strength, symbolizing leadership through difficult times. The reverse features 2 wheat stalks, framing the denomination 1 cent, a tribute to America's agricultural roots. Even though the design seems simple, the 1939 issue carries a charm that reflects the spirit of a nation striving to rebuild. But not all 1939 pennies are created equal. The no-mint mark version has a unique place in the coin market because it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint with strict standards, but without a visible mint mark. As a result, collectors have long analyzed the details, strike quality, sharpness of features, and the overall condition of the coin to determine which pieces stand above the rest. One of the biggest reasons this penny shines in the world of coin collecting is the enormous demand for wheat cents among American numismatists. Wheat pennies have become legendary over the decades, especially early dates, mint errors, and high-grade survivors. The 1939 no-mint mark penny fits perfectly into this category. While millions of them were produced, only a small percentage survived in excellent, well-preserved condition. And that scarcity is what drives serious collectors to compete for the best examples at auctions. Imagine holding a penny that has traveled through the hands of Americans nearly a century ago. A penny that survived the years without major scratches, dents, corrosion, or fading. A penny that somehow remained crisp, glossy, and full of detail despite being made for daily circulation. That kind of survival alone makes the 1939 no-mint mark Lincoln cent extremely special. But what truly elevates its value is its condition. Collectors grade coins on a scale, and the difference between an average circulated penny and a high-grade example can be enormous. A typical worn penny might be worth only a few cents to a couple of dollars. But once the coin reaches high grades, especially those preserved with full mint luster, sharp lines, and clean surfaces, the price skyrockets. Some of the most desirable 1939 no-mint mark pennies are those graded mint state, particularly MS65 and above. These pennies carry stunning eye appeal. They look almost as though they were freshly minted. You can see the shine dancing across the surface, the crisp lettering around the rim, and the tiny details in Lincoln's hair and beard. For collectors, this is where the excitement begins. Another fascinating factor lies in the subtle differences between strikes. Some 1939 no-mint mark pennies showcase stronger details, almost like the dies were brand new when the coin was struck. These strong strikes make the coin appear bold and distinctive, which collectors love. On the other hand, weaker strikes, though still collectible, do not fetch the same attention or price. Small things like the clarity of the motto "In God We Trust," the sharpness of the wheat lines, and the smoothness of the fields all play major roles in determining a coin's market value. For those who enjoy treasure hunting, this coin offers endless excitement. Many people today still find wheat pennies in old coin jars, drawers, or boxes of childhood keepsakes. Some astonishingly find 1939 pennies in pocket change even in the modern era. While most may not be in pristine condition, the thrill of discovering a rare or valuable piece makes the hobby of coin collecting deeply rewarding. Beyond condition and scarcity, the 1939 penny has another layer of significance. It marks an important period in U.S. history. The late 1930s was a time when the country was emerging from the Great Depression, and new economic hopes were rising. This penny circulated at a time when Americans were rebuilding, saving, working, and striving for better lives. When you examine a 1939 penny, you're not just holding copper, you're holding a small piece of a nation's story. Collectors often look for hidden varieties from this year as well. While no major errors dominate the 1939 no-mint mark issue, small die chips, slightly doubled letters, or misaligned strikes can still appear. These varieties are not extremely common, but when found, they add even more fascination, and sometimes value, to the coin. Another thing that makes the 1939 penny particularly interesting is the way it has aged. Copper coins develop natural toning over time, turning shades of brown, red, or a mix of both. Red-toned coins, especially those retaining their original mint luster, are extremely desirable. The grading system even separates coins by color designations: RD for red, RB for red-brown, and BN for brown. A full red 1939 penny that has kept its brilliance for nearly 100 years is truly a breathtaking sight, and these examples are the ones that often command the most attention among serious collectors. The market for wheat pennies continues to thrive because collectors old and new understand the historical weight behind these coins. Each year, more enthusiasts join the hobby, and with the growing demand, high-quality examples of coins like the 1939 no-mint mark penny become even more valuable. The chase for the perfect coin continues, and every new collector enters the scene hoping to discover that one special piece. When considering the value of your 1939 penny, it's important to analyze the overall details carefully. Examine the coin's surfaces under good lighting. Look for scratches, blemishes, or worn-down details. Tilt the coin slightly to check for luster and sharpness. Compare it with recognized grading examples if possible. If your penny looks promising, consider getting it professionally graded. A graded coin is far easier to sell and often commands higher prices. Collectors, dealers, and auction houses frequently highlight 1939 pennies as excellent beginner pieces for those entering the wheat penny world, yet they also remain essential additions for advanced collectors seeking top-grade examples. This balance makes the coin universally admired. As time passes, the number of high-quality 1939 no-mint mark wheat pennies naturally decreases. Coins get lost, damaged, or simply age. This scarcity intensifies interest, and collectors continue to place higher bids for exceptional survivors. So always remember, even the smallest coin can hold enormous value. A simple wheat penny that once bought a piece of candy or a newspaper can now be a remarkable treasure worth far more than anyone in 1939 ever imagined. In today's modern era, coin collecting has become easier than ever. With online marketplaces, auctions, and collector communities, people around the world have access to rare finds and historic pieces. Yet, despite all the technological advances, the excitement of discovering a valuable coin remains just as magical as it was decades ago. In the world of American coin collecting, few coins carry the charm, mystery, and nostalgia of the Lincoln Wheat Penny. Today, we spotlight a coin that millions of Americans once carried in their pockets during grocery trips, wartime rationing, and long-forgotten moments of history. The 1940 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny. a simple copper coin that has become a fascinating treasure to collectors across the country. This coin, struck just before the United States entered World War II, holds stories that stretch across generations, and its surprising value in today's market has stunned many new collectors. The story of the 1940 penny begins in a turbulent era. Families were moving through the last years of the Great Depression, the American economy was struggling to recover, and the world beyond the borders of the United States was slowly slipping toward global conflict. In the middle of this historical tension, the United States Mint continued its mission of producing coins for everyday use. The Philadelphia Mint, in particular, was busy striking millions of cents, and those coins bore no mint mark at all. For many Americans, this coin was just a small piece of copper, barely worth a piece of candy, but today, it represents a remarkable window into the past. Most people don't know this, but in 1940, pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This gives the coin its rich reddish-brown color that collectors love to see. Over time, many of these coins darkened, developed spots, scratches, or even corrosion from decades of circulation. That's why finding one in crisp, sharp condition today is so exciting. While billions of wheat pennies were made across several decades, collectors still enjoy hunting for the earliest dates, especially those connected to historic periods like 1940. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 500 million pennies that year, but that huge number doesn't mean finding a high-value piece is easy. For collectors, condition is everything. A 1940 penny that has spent 80 years being passed from hand to hand will often show significant wear. Lincoln's hair might be faint. The wheat stalks on the reverse may look flat or blurry. The rim may be worn down. That kind of coin still has historical charm, but it won't bring in much money. However, when a collector finds a coin that looks almost as fresh as the day it was minted, that's when things get exciting. In numismatics, a coin graded uncirculated or mint state means it has nearly all its original shine and details. No scratches, no dents, no damage. These coins can fetch strong prices. And for a date like 1940, collectors are always eager to add such a piece to their collection. But what makes the 1940 no mint mark penny stand out? It isn't just age. It isn't just metal content. It's the combination of historical significance, rarity and high grade, and the strong demand from wheat penny collectors. Every year, more people join the hobby. More collectors try to build full Lincoln penny albums, which means they search for every date from 1909 to 1958. And when they reach pages containing coins from the early 1940s, the 1940 penny becomes one of the essential dates they must fill. This strong demand is part of what pushes its value upward. The 1940 penny is also popular because it is a bridge between two eras of American coinage. It carries the classic wheat ears on the back, a design that collectors adore. The wheat reverse was used from 1909 to 1958. Millions of collectors admire this artwork because it represents simplicity and tradition. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's portrait reflects strength and leadership. Sculptor Victor David Brenner designed this portrait to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and it still remains one of the most loved designs in U.S. coinage history. Combined, these artistic choices make the coin feel timeless, drawing collectors of all ages. Some people wonder whether a common date like 1940 can really hide valuable surprises. The answer is yes. Minting errors add another layer of excitement to this coin. Although not extremely rare, certain varieties can occur in 1940 pennies, like die cracks, repunched mint marks on Denver or San Francisco versions, and doubled dies. For the no mint mark Philadelphia penny, doubling in letters or a cracked die across the wheat stalks can raise the value significantly. Any collector who comes across such a find knows the thrill of discovering a hidden treasure in their pocket change. Another factor that increases interest in the 1940 penny is the emotional connection people feel. Many grandparents and older collectors remember saving wheat pennies in jars. They remember finding them in change as children. They may even recall stories from their parents or grandparents who lived during the early 1940s. These memories keep the coin popular even in the modern market. It is not just metal. It represents family, heritage, and the American story. And that makes the 1940 penny more than a collectible. It becomes a symbol. But let's dive deeper into the value. A circulated 1940 penny might sell for a few cents to a few dollars, depending on its condition. Clean details and smooth surfaces can push a low-grade coin into a higher range. However, the true excitement is in uncirculated examples. When a collector submits a coin to a grading company like PCGS or NGC and receives a high mint state grade, especially MS66 or MS67, that penny becomes a small treasure. Fewer coins survive in such pristine condition because very few were saved straight from the mint. The highest graded examples become highly desirable, and bidding wars often break out among collectors who want to own the best. To truly understand the value of the 1940 penny, imagine a coin that survived more than 80 years with almost no wear. No scratches. No fingerprints. No dulling of color. That coin, in today's market, can rise to a value that surprises even experienced collectors. Auctions often reveal how far collectors are willing to go to get the perfect wheat penny, and some sales have recorded strong results that keep the 1940 penny in the spotlight. This coin also holds a special place for beginners in the hobby. For many new collectors, the 1940 penny is one of the first pieces they look for. It is old enough to feel special, yet still affordable enough to find in circulation occasionally. That sense of discovering a coin from the early 1940s is thrilling. It encourages people to continue searching, learning, and collecting. For young numismatists, it becomes an introduction to history, craftsmanship, and the excitement of treasure hunting. Even metal content plays a role in this coin's value. Before 1982, pennies contained real copper, giving them a richer feel and higher intrinsic worth. The 1940 penny has that solid copper weight that modern zinc pennies lack. Some collectors simply prefer the feel of an older copper cent. It feels more substantial, more real, more connected to America's past. Over time, coins like these become more treasured not just for rarity but for the simple fact that the world no longer makes them this way. When we talk about the worth of the 1940 penny, we also talk about its story. Picture the individuals who handled this coin over the years. A farmer purchasing supplies before the war. A student saving lunch money. A soldier's family sending letters and coins in envelopes. A parent teaching a child how to count using pennies. All of these moments disappear into history, but the coin remains, quietly carrying its memories and its metal surface. Every scratch, every tone, every mark is a whisper from the past. This emotional quality is one of the major reasons collectors value wheat pennies so deeply. As the years pass, high-grade 1940 no-mint mark pennies continue to become harder to find. Time, circulation, and natural wear reduce the number of surviving examples. That makes pristine coins more valuable every year. In auctions, collectors sometimes see results that surprise even experts. A simple penny, once worth a single cent, becomes a prized collectible worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Now, after exploring the history, the craftsmanship, the collector demand, the role of condition, and the emotional charm of the coin, it's time to talk about the highest price ever recorded for a magnificent example of this coin. A stunning piece in exceptional condition once sold for an incredible amount that shocked many collectors and brought worldwide attention to this date. That top value reached $39,028. In the world of American coin collecting, few small pieces of metal have captured attention, curiosity, and excitement quite like the classic Lincoln Wheat Penny. For more than a century, these iconic coins have passed through the hands of millions of Americans, carrying history, stories, and sometimes even jaw-dropping value. And among all the years and mint variations, one coin continues to fascinate collectors everywhere: the 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat cent. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary brown penny you've seen thousands of times, but hidden beneath that simple design is a story full of wartime history, striking errors, rare conditions, and the potential for remarkable value. Imagine holding a penny that circulated during one of the most pivotal years in human history. The year was 1944. World War II was nearing its end. American soldiers were stationed across Europe and the Pacific, factories were running day and night, and the United States Mint was operating at full speed to support the nation's needs. Everyday Americans depended heavily on coins and cash, and pennies were essential for transactions in stores, buses, trains, and markets. Because of this, billions of Lincoln cents were produced. But even within those massive numbers, a few special examples survived the years with exceptional qualities that now make them highly valuable in the world of numismatics. The 1944 Lincoln penny was struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But the one with no mint mark, produced in Philadelphia, remains one of the most widely collected because of its historical background and the surprising range of conditions they can still be found in. Since Philadelphia produced well over 1 billion pennies that year, most people assume the 1944 no-mint mark penny must be common. And while this is true for heavily circulated examples, the fascinating twist is how dramatically the value increases when a coin from this year happens to be preserved in exceptional condition. Even a simple penny can transform into a treasure once collectors discover the right details. When people talk about the 1944 penny, they usually begin with its wartime roots. Just 1 year earlier, in 1943, the United States Mint had made pennies out of steel coated with zinc instead of copper. That decision was made because copper was needed for military ammunition, wiring, and equipment. But by 1944, the Mint returned to copper, not ordinary copper, but recycled copper from spent shell casings collected from training grounds. These shell casings were melted down, refined, and transformed into planchets for the new pennies. This makes the 1944 wheat penny not only a piece of currency, but also a symbol of wartime resilience. Every 1944 cent carries a story of recycled material that once played a role in the war itself. As you examine a 1944 no-mint mark penny, the first thing that stands out is the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln created by Victor David Brenner. It is a design so familiar today, yet rich in symbolism. Lincoln's warm profile faces right, accompanied by the word liberty and the year of mintage, 1944. On the reverse side, the wheat stalks curve upward like two guardians protecting the bold words 1 cent and United States of America. The motto E pluribus unum ties it all together. It's a timeless design that collectors adore. Now, what makes some 1944 pennies far more valuable than others? A combination of rarity, strike quality, preservation, and unique attributes. Many of these pennies have been handled for decades, tossed into pockets, used at stores, dropped on sidewalks, collected by children, and forgotten in jars. These rough journeys usually leave scratches, abrasions, corrosion, and discoloration behind. But a small number of coins escaped this damage. Some remained untouched in bank rolls, mint-sewn bags, forgotten drawers, or old collections. These untouched survivors are the ones collectors dream of. The grading scale plays a big role in determining value. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins based on sharpness, luster, strike, and absence of wear. A circulated 1944 penny, even in decent condition, may be worth only a small amount. But an uncirculated one, especially one with brilliant red luster, can be worth exponentially more. The color designation alone can determine thousands of dollars of difference. Red coins are the most desirable, followed by red-brown, then brown. Since copper darkens over time, original red examples are extremely scarce. Then, of course, there are errors and varieties. These unusual surprises occur when something goes wrong during the minting process. A double die, off-center strike, clipped planchet, or die crack can turn an otherwise common penny into a valuable rarity. While the 1944 no-mint mark penny doesn't have as many famous error varieties as some other years, collectors still appreciate unique imperfections that reveal the coin's journey through production. One of the most famous errors associated with this year involves the extremely rare 1944 steel penny. Created by mistake when leftover steel blanks from 1943 were struck with the 1944 dies. These are incredibly valuable coins worth hundreds of thousands, but they are completely different from the standard copper coins. Still, the existence of such wartime mistakes adds to the overall excitement surrounding 1944 pennies. Even though your focus may be on the copper no mint mark version, the knowledge of this era helps collectors appreciate just how unpredictable and fascinating the minting process could be. Collectors also seek out strong strike examples. Some pennies from this year show weak details on Lincoln's coat or on the wheat stalks because dyes were heavily used. A well-struck example, however, shows crisp lines, clear lettering, and strong texture. These details drastically improve desirability. Sharpness of strike becomes even more critical in high-grade examples. Another factor influencing the value of a 1944 penny is its overall eye appeal. Even two coins with the same grade may vary in desirability. One might have deeper original luster, fewer spots, and stronger edges. That coin will naturally attract more bidders at auctions. Eye appeal is subjective, but it plays a crucial role in driving prices up. Let's imagine for a moment that you stumble upon an old penny jar in your home, or perhaps an antique shop has a box of coins no one has looked through in decades. Hidden among ordinary change, you notice a worn wheat penny with the date 1944. You take it home, clean your hands, never the coin, and look closer. Maybe it's brown, maybe it has scratches, but it still carries history. But what if you happen to find one with bright red luster, smooth surfaces, and sharp detail? Suddenly, that penny becomes a potential treasure. Auction records reveal just how far collectors are willing to go for high-grade examples. A truly superb 1944 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny, preserved with brilliant red luster and graded at the highest levels, can achieve remarkable prices, surprising even experienced collectors. Every year, various auction platforms showcase amazing finds, where what began as a 1-cent coin becomes a star for the world to see. The reason collectors value such coins so highly goes beyond rarity. It's about the story, where they came from, how they survived, what era they represent, and how they reflect America's change over time. Coins are tiny artifacts that connect the present to the past. A 1944 penny is not just metal. It's a witness to history. During the war, millions of Americans struggled, worked hard, and hoped for peace. Every penny mattered. Children collected scrap metal to help the war effort. Families saved coins in jars. Nurses, soldiers, and factory workers used these pennies every day. When you hold a 1944 penny, especially one preserved in pristine condition, you hold a symbol of that era, a reminder of perseverance, unity, and resilience. Collectors today continue to chase these coins because they represent more than monetary value. They represent American heritage. Searching through old coins, coin rolls, or flea market discoveries carries the thrill of possibility. Anyone, anywhere, could accidentally find a valuable 1944 penny. That excitement makes collecting fun. Today, the United States Mint produces billions of coins with advanced technology. But back in 1944, the process was more hands-on, more vulnerable to small variations that collectors now treasure. That subtle human touch is part of what makes these older coins so special. For anyone interested in coin collecting, the 1944 no-mint mark penny is an excellent place to begin. It teaches you about history, minting processes, grading standards, and the importance of preservation. It's accessible yet full of surprises. And for those truly lucky enough to own a high-grade example, the financial value is undeniable. In today's video, we're taking a deep and fascinating journey into the world of American numismatics, exploring one of the most talked about mid-century wheat pennies ever produced, the 1950 D-Mint mark Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny. At first glance, this humble 1-cent coin looks no different from the millions of other pennies struck in the early 1950s, but hidden beneath its ordinary copper surface lies a universe of rarity, history, surprising value, and special minting details that collectors spend years trying to uncover. Whether you are a beginner coin collector, a seasoned treasure hunter, or simply someone who loves discovering hidden gems in your spare change, this story is one you'll want to stick around for until the very end. Every great coin has a tale to tell. And the 1950 D Lincoln Wheat Penny is no exception. Minted during a transitional era in American history, a time defined by economic growth, post-war recovery, and rising change in American industry, this coin carries with it more than its face value. It carries the marks of its time, the scars of minting machines, the tiny imperfections that shape its identity, and the potential for extraordinary financial worth that can shock even experienced collectors. Today, we're breaking down exactly what makes this coin so desirable, how you can identify valuable errors hidden on them, and what separates a common 1950 penny from the once-in-a-lifetime treasures that fetch massive prices at auction. Before diving into the value, let's travel back to the year 1950. The Denver Mint was working full speed, producing millions of coins to meet America's rapidly growing economy. In that year alone, the Denver Mint struck over 334 million Lincoln Wheat Pennies. With such a large number, you might think that the 1950 penny would be one of the most common coins from the wheat cent era. And in many ways, yes, it is a widely available coin. But as collectors already know, numbers tell only part of the story. It's not the quantity that determines value, it's the condition, the rarity of errors, the quality of the strike, and the overall preservation of the coin. Think of it like this: millions of people have old pennies sitting in jars, drawers, purses, and boxes. Most are worth only a cent. But once in a while, just one among millions possesses the right combination of perfect condition, strong luster, almost untouched surfaces, and rare minting anomalies that turn it into a highly valuable treasure. And the 1950 penny has proven time and time again that it can produce such hidden masterpieces. One of the first things collectors examine on the 1950 penny is the presence of strong, original mint luster. This shine is a key sign that a coin was barely touched after being struck. Over the decades, most pennies lose their luster through circulation, contact marks, and environmental wear. But when a 1950 penny somehow survives in flawless or almost flawless state, its value skyrockets. Bright red surfaces, known to collectors as RD, are the rarest and most desirable color classification. Coins that maintain their full red finish from 1950 are almost always stored immediately after minting, sometimes in original bank rolls, and sometimes by pure accident. If you come across a blazing red 1950 penny, you might be looking at something significantly more valuable than you think. But condition isn't the only factor that makes these pennies exciting. Collectors are constantly hunting for special die varieties and minting errors, which can transform an ordinary penny into a prized rarity. The Denver Mint, while known for producing strong quality strikes, also had its fair share of imperfections in 1950. Some of these imperfections include repunched mint marks, known as RPM errors, where the letter D was punched more than once into the die. Sometimes the punches overlap slightly, sometimes they appear separated, giving a doubled or shadow-like effect. These RPM varieties are highly sought after, and the clearer and more dramatic the doubling, the higher the value of the coin. Another feature to look for is die cracks. Tiny raised lines on the coin cause when the die used to strike the penny begins to break. These cracks usually appear on the reverse side near the wheat stalks or on the obverse near Lincoln's shoulder or the rim. While small cracks are common and add only a bit of collectible interest, large or dramatic die cracks can increase value. Some collectors even nickname these cracks based on their shape or location, which adds to their desirability. But among error hunters, one type of 1950 penny captures even more attention: off-center strikes. These are coins that were not properly aligned during minting, resulting in a visibly shifted design. Depending on how far off-center the coin is, and whether the date remains visible, the value can rise into impressive numbers. Off-center wheat pennies with clear dates are particularly collectible because they are unusual but still identifiable. The combination of uniqueness and historical value makes them stand out in any collection. Now let's shift gears and talk about what truly excites collectors and treasure hunters: the values these coins can reach. While an ordinary circulated 1950 penny might sell for a small amount, high-grade examples with brilliant color, no marks, and strong eye appeal can command surprising prices. Professional grading plays a major role here. A certified grade from a major grading company like PCGS or NGC helps determine the official market value. As the grade increases, the value jumps dramatically. To give you an idea, a 1950 penny graded MS65 or MS66 is already considered extremely collectible. But when you get into MS-67 or above, things become truly extraordinary. Only a tiny fraction of all surviving 1950 pennies ever reached this level of perfection. These coins show nearly flawless surfaces, sharp details in Lincoln's hair and beard, deep wheat stalk lines on the reverse, and incredible natural red color. They look almost as if they were struck yesterday, not over 70 years ago. Collectors love coins that appear untouched by time, and the market reflects that. Every year, auctions showcase rare, high-grade examples of this coin, and every year collectors are willing to pay significant amounts to secure them. Even minor differences in color or marks can mean the difference between an ordinary value and an extraordinary one. Now imagine finding one of these coins not in a professional collection, not at an expensive convention, but in a jar in your own home, or in your pocket change. It has happened before. People have discovered near-perfect 1950 pennies in old tin boxes, military trunks, inherited collections, wheat penny rolls purchased from estate sales, and even hidden in old furniture. Every unknown coin carries the potential for discovery. That's the magic of coin collecting. It transforms everyday objects into windows of history. It turns small copper discs into sources of excitement and surprise. And above all, it gives ordinary people a chance to uncover something valuable that others may have overlooked for decades. So when you look at your own collection or your own spare change, take a moment to study every detail. Look at the D mint mark. Check for doubling. Examine the luster. Look closely at Lincoln's features. Check the rims, the fields, and both wheat stalks. These details can be the difference between a common penny and a remarkable treasure. The 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny is a perfect example of how history, condition, rarity, and collector passion come together to create surprise value in the world of numismatics. A small, simple penny becomes a story, one that begins in the Denver Mint in 1950 and continues today in the collections of those lucky enough to find one of its most valuable versions. And now, after exploring the history, the errors, the beauty, and the collectible power of this coin, we arrive at the moment many of you have been waiting for. Among the highest auction records ever achieved for a 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny is the incredible price of $24,653. In the world of American coin collecting, there are certain pennies that look ordinary at first glance, yet hold stories, secrets, and surprising value hidden beneath their copper surface. Today, we're going deep into one such piece of history, the United States of America 1951 No Mint Mark Lincoln Wheat Cent. This is a coin that millions of people have handled without ever knowing what it truly represents. Maybe it slipped through someone's pocket in the grocery store, or maybe it sat unnoticed in a jar on a bedroom table for decades. But behind this tiny coin is a track full of history, hidden varieties, collector demand, and value that continues to grow year after year. When most people think back to the early 1950s, they remember images of classic cars, the rise of television, the post-war boom, and the changing American lifestyle. But tucked within that era was the humble penny, a coin that quietly carried Abraham Lincoln's portrait and the proud wheat stalks on the reverse. Even though the 1951 penny was produced in large numbers, the versions that survived today in pristine condition, untouched and uncirculated, are the ones that turn ordinary collectors into lucky discoverers. And what makes this specific penny interesting is that the no mint mark version was struck in Philadelphia, the U.S. mint that often produced the highest quantities but rarely marked their coins with identifying letters. Imagine holding a penny that's over 70 years old, a coin that has witnessed the passing of generations, the rise of modern America, and countless changes in society. It may have paid for a newspaper, a piece of candy, or a bus fare back in the 1950s. And yet today collectors search for this exact coin with a passion, trying to find those premium examples that stand out from the rest. You might be surprised to learn that even though this penny is common in circulation, the demand for high-grade examples continues to climb as collectors expand their sets and fill missing spots in their books. Let's take a closer look at what makes the 1951 no mint mark wheat penny something worth paying attention to. First, its design is iconic, the classic wheat ear reverse created by Victor David Brenner. This reverse was minted from 1909 to 1958, and is cherished for its symbolic representation of American agriculture, growth, and strength. For collectors, coins with the wheat reverse instantly evoke nostalgia and are considered a cornerstone of U.S. numismatics. Now let's talk about condition. Condition is everything in the world of valuable coins. You might have a 1951 penny in your collection, or even a handful of them, but not all pennies are created equal. What collectors and grading services look for is sharpness in the details, the clarity in Lincoln's beard, the smoothness of the fields, the crisp definition in the wheat stalks, and the preservation of the edges without nicks, scratches, or discoloration. Many of these coins circulated heavily, which means they show significant wear. But a tiny percentage survived the decades without ever entering everyday use, and these are the coins that command the highest prices at auction. Some collectors even hunt for varieties and errors, because errors in older coins can bring extraordinary premiums. For the 1951 no-mint mark penny, certain misstrikes, die cracks, off-center strikes, and repunch dates are known to exist. These small oddities happened during the minting process and were never meant to escape into the public. Yet today, they add character and value to a coin that might otherwise be overlooked. It's incredible to think about how the smallest flaw during production could someday turn into a treasure worth far more than a single cent, but one of the biggest reasons why this coin holds such interest today is the rising popularity of wheat pennies in general. With more new collectors entering the hobby every year, demand is exploding for older, visually striking, historically meaningful coins. The 1951 penny sits in the perfect spot, old enough to be collectible, but still accessible enough that many people might find one by chance in an old piggy bank or inherited coin jar. Imagine the excitement of someone finding a perfect, uncirculated 1951 penny sitting quietly in a drawer for decades. A coin like that can almost look brand new, with its original red copper shine glowing under the light. To collectors, that beautiful copper color, especially the bright red shade, is incredibly valuable. The grading scale used by professionals assigns higher grades to coins that still have their full original luster. A bright red uncirculated wheat penny from 1951 is rare, and as time goes on, it becomes even more scarce because copper naturally darkens with age. Another interesting fact is that people often underestimate their old coins because they assume pennies are common and not worth checking. But even with millions of these coins minted, only a small fraction remain in the condition that collectors are willing to pay premium prices for. And every year that passes, more coins are lost, damaged, or melted down, making the remaining survivors even more desirable. Collectors also look for eye appeal, that special quality that makes a coin stand out. It could be a perfectly centered strike, smooth surfaces free from spots, or a deep glow that makes the details pop. Eye-catching examples of the 1951 penny can attract strong competition from bidders. Whether at auction, online marketplaces, or collectors' shows, a beautiful wheat penny always draws attention. Another reason this coin has become more valuable in recent years is nostalgia. People who grew up in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s often remember using wheat pennies daily. They represent a simpler era, and coins from that time carry emotional value as well as collectible value. When collectors feel emotionally connected to a coin, prices tend to climb, especially when the supply of high-quality pieces is small. Let's think for a moment about what this little penny has seen since 1951. It existed during the Korean War, during the rise of rock and roll, during the first satellite launch, during the moon landing, the invention of computers, the evolution of automobiles, and the arrival of smartphones. It witnessed a changing America, from black and white television to streaming on digital screens. This penny lived through every chapter of modern history while quietly surviving in pockets, drawers, and collections. Now imagine a collector discovering a pristine example, grading it, and realizing that it stands out so much that it belongs in a premium collection. That is when the true magic of the hobby happens, when everyday history becomes a treasure. People love stories, and every coin has one. The 1951 no-mint mark wheat penny reminds us that even something as small as a 1-cent coin can carry decades of history, craftsmanship, and cultural value that far outweighs its face value. collectors will continue searching for this coin because it fits perfectly into full Lincoln penny sets. Completing a set from the 1909 to 1958 wheat years is one of the most enjoyable and iconic challenges in American numismatics. And the 1951 penny, especially in its highest grades, represents one of those pieces that can elevate an entire collection to the next level. If you're wondering whether the penny you have at home might be valuable, start by checking its condition. Look closely at the date. See whether the surfaces are bright or dull, whether Lincoln's profile is sharply defined, whether the wheat stalks have clean lines, and whether the coin shows any signs of errors or unusual markings. Even a small improvement in grade can make a big difference in value. Collectors, dealers, and auction houses know the importance of this coin, and they continue to showcase some of the best surviving examples. In today's market, with collectors competing for top-grade coins, the highest quality 1951 pennies have proven that they can reach impressive prices. And now, here comes the moment everyone has been waiting for: the highest known value achieved for a top-graded example of the 1951 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny. In a remarkable auction event, one of the finest preserved coins from this year sold for an astonishing total of $21,237. The story of the United States of America's 1954 mint mark Lincoln 1-cent wheat penny is far more fascinating than most collectors realize. At first glance, this little copper coin looks like any other ordinary wheat penny you might find in an old jar, a forgotten dresser drawer, or a dusty box of inherited family change. But behind this small 1-cent coin lies a rich history, incredible minting details, shocking surviving conditions, and a coin market journey that has turned ordinary pocket change into unbelievable treasures for those who know what to look for. Many collectors underestimate the 1954 penny because it was minted in high quantities. But what most people don't understand is that quantity does not determine rarity alone. What matters most is surviving condition, die variety, strike quality, color designation, luster, errors, and authenticity. The deeper you dive into the world of wheat pennies, the more you learn that every small detail can turn a simple copper coin into a valuable collectible. And the 1954 penny is no exception. Imagine for a moment the year 1954. America was in the middle of cultural transformation, recovering from the echoes of World War II, and building a new era of innovation. The Denver Mint, responsible for the mint mark, was extremely active, striking millions of coins to keep up with nationwide economic acceleration. Though everything was running at high speed, this also created opportunities for unusual errors, die cracks, weak strikes, misalignments, wide AM variations, and other minor imperfections that today make certain 1954 pennies highly sought after. Collectors love this coin because it represents a final chapter in the wheat penny era before the famous Lincoln Memorial reverse replaced the wheat stock design in 1959. These final wheat years hold nostalgic value, historic significance, and collector popularity that continues to grow as fewer high-grade examples remain in existence. When you hold a 1954 penny, you hold a small piece of a disappearing era. Now let's go deeper into what makes the 1954 penny so special and why some examples can sell for serious money. First, it's important to understand the three main color categories used by grading companies for copper coins. These categories drastically influence the value. Brown, abbreviated BN, is the most common and comes from decades of oxidation naturally changing the coin's original bright copper red color. Next is red-brown, abbreviated RB, which shows a mix of remaining original luster and some natural toning. The most valuable category is red, abbreviated RD, which means the coin still retains nearly all of its original mint red shine. RD coins are extremely rare for older wheat pennies, especially from circulation-heavy years like 1954. This is where the Denver Mint coins become interesting. The 1954 penny has some of the strongest red survivors among 1950s wheat pennies, but only in extremely limited numbers. Most have faded, oxidized, or taken damage from circulation. So when collectors come across a brilliant red example, it becomes a highly desirable gem. Next, we must talk about mint state grades. When a coin is graded on the Sheldon scale, A 1954D penny can range from MS-60 all the way up to the ultra-prestigious MS-67 or sometimes MS-68 if the coin is unbelievably flawless. Each step upward multiplies the coin's value. For example, an MS-65RD coin already enters high-value territory. But MS-66 and above move into an entirely different league. These top-grade coins are the ones that make headlines, shock collectors, and showcase how a tiny piece of copper can become a major numismatic treasure. Another major factor is strike quality. Not all pennies struck in 1954 came out equally sharp. Some show soft details on Lincoln's hair, worn-down wheat lines, or weak rims. A fully struck coin with crisp details, bold lines, and smooth fields stands out immediately to grading experts. Combine a strong strike with clean surfaces and an original red shine, and you get a coin that becomes a major contender at auctions. Then we have the subject of errors and die varieties. Many collectors search specifically for doubled dies, repunched mint marks known as RPMs, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and other unique factory mistakes that the Denver Mint occasionally released into circulation. Even a tiny repunched mint mark can transform a regular penny into a valuable collectible. Some 1954D RPM varieties have strong doubling on the mint mark, creating a shadowed look that collectors love. These varieties often sell for premium prices even in circulated grades because they are visually interesting and historically important. But the real jackpot comes from coins that combine all these attributes: full red color, high mint state grade, strong strike, and a desirable error or variety. This combination is what pushes the 1954D penny into the top ranks of rare wheat pennies that can surprise collectors with unexpectedly high auction results. Now, let's talk about the reality many collectors don't know. Even though millions of these pennies were minted, only a small percentage still exists today in high grades. Most coins that survived the decades show major wear, scratches, dents, exposure to heat, moisture, or cleaning attempts that damage the original surfaces. Only a tiny handful escaped into rolls, bags, or old coin jars, and remained untouched long enough to remain in mint state condition. These are the coins that become extremely valuable today. So what should you look for if you think you have a valuable 1954D penny? Start with the basics. First, inspect the color. A bright red copper shine is the first sign of high value. Even if the coin has some dark spots, check whether most of the surface still glows with original luster. Next, inspect the mint state quality. Look for scratches, spots, dings, or marks. The fewer the imperfections, the higher the potential grade. Then check the strike. Strong hair detail on Lincoln, well-defined wheat lines, and razor-sharp rims are signs of a premium example. Finally, inspect the mint mark carefully. Use a magnifying glass or microscope if you have one. Look for doubling, repunching, or extra impressions that indicate a variety. Many collectors overlook this step and accidentally spend a valuable coin without realizing it. The market for wheat pennies continues to grow each year as more beginners enter coin collecting through YouTube, TikTok, online marketplaces, and coin shows. Social media has revived the coin collecting world, creating new demand, new discoveries, and new excitement. The 1954D penny, once ignored by many older collectors, is now earning a new reputation among younger collectors searching for undervalued coins that may become future stars in the numismatic world. What makes this coin so interesting today is how unpredictable its value can be. You might find a circulated example worth only face value if it's worn. But you might also find a hidden gem, a special variety, or a nearly flawless mint state example that could turn into a financial surprise. Stories continue to appear online of people who discovered old wheat pennies in pockets of forgotten clothing, inherited boxes, or even thrift store jars, and later learned that their coin was worth far more than expected. The thrill of the hunt, the beauty of the copper design, and the historical connection to America's past make the 1954D wheat penny a collector favorite. And while most collectors will never stumble upon a top-grade example, those who do often experience one of the most exciting moments in coin collecting, discovering that a simple penny can be worth thousands of dollars. And among these special discoveries, one coin stands above the rest, a spectacular mint state red example that amazed collectors at auction and reached a record price few expected. This single coin, preserved with extraordinary care, displayed flawless luster, razor-sharp details, stunning color, and perfect surfaces. It became the most valuable known example of the 1954 D penny, selling for an astonishing $18,993. In the vast world of American coin collecting, only a few coins manage to stand out, not because they are ancient or made of silver or gold, but because they have a story that refuses to fade with time. Among these treasured pieces of history, the 1958 D Mint Mark Lincoln Wheat Penny holds a very special place. It may look small, simple, and ordinary at first glance, but behind its copper surface lies decades of history, mystery, and unexpected value that has captured the attention of collectors all over the world. When people hear about rare pennies, they often think of the famous 1909 SVDB or the extremely scarce 1943 bronze cent. But the truth is, some of the most interesting and surprisingly valuable coins in American history are the ones hiding in plain sight, coins like the 1958 D Wheat Penny. A coin that millions of Americans once carried in their pockets, dropped into vending machines, used to pay for candy, newspapers, or a loaf of bread. A coin that was never meant to be rare, yet today, certain versions of it can shock collectors with how much they sell for at auctions. To appreciate the hidden value of the 1958 D penny, we need to travel back in time to the late 1950s, a period when America was growing rapidly. The decade was full of optimism, booming industries, and expanding cities. Abraham Lincoln's portrait had already been on the penny for almost 50 years. And the Denver Mint, responsible for the 1958 D cents, was producing staggering numbers of coins to keep up with the expanding economy. In fact, over 800 million of these wheat pennies were minted in Denver alone. With such a huge number, nobody expected any individual 1958 D penny to ever become valuable. It was just another ordinary copper coin, simple, common, and produced by the hundreds of millions. But collectors today know that sometimes rarity isn't about how many coins were made, it's about how many were preserved in perfect condition and how many survived without scratches, discoloration, or wear from decades of circulation. Most wheat pennies, including the 1958 D, circulated heavily. They passed through countless hands, remained in pockets with other coins that caused scratches, rubbed against keychains, and aged naturally. That's why when a 1958 D penny appears in unbelievable condition, bright red, sharp details, strong luster, it instantly becomes exciting to collectors. The value of this coin depends almost entirely on its grade, its color, and its overall appearance. The Lincoln Wheat Penny series, which lasted from 1909 to 1958, ended with this very coin. That means the 1958 D penny is the final chapter of the classic wheat reverse design. For collectors, that alone makes it historically significant. Every series has a beginning and an end, and the final year coins always attract special attention. The wheat ears on the back of the coin, a symbol of American agriculture and growth, were replaced the very next year by the Lincoln Memorial design. This makes the 1958 D the last breath of an era, the last year collectors could ever find the beloved wheat design in circulation. One of the main reasons collectors love the 1958 D penny is because it represents the conclusion of a 50-year legacy. It reminds us of a different time in American history when pennies had weight, character, and design elements that told a story. And because it was the final year, many collectors preserved rolls and bags of these pennies, hoping one day their value would rise. While many were saved, not all were saved in perfect condition. Storage conditions, humidity, oxygen exposure, and the passing of years have taken their toll on many examples. That's why only a small percentage of 1958 D pennies are found in stunning, high-grade red condition today. These are the coins that sell for impressive amounts of money. To understand why the value can be so high, it's important to understand how coin grading works. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing absolute perfection, no scratches, no marks, perfect shine, flawless details. A 1958 D penny in MS65 grade is already desirable. But when a coin receives an MS-67 or MS-68 grade, it enters a whole different world. These grades are extremely rare, especially for older copper coins. Copper reacts with air over time, which means even coins that were saved might tone, darken, or develop tiny spots called carbon flecks. That's why a brilliant red 1958 penny with no marks is special. Collectors around the world compete fiercely for these top-graded examples whenever they appear at major auction houses. A coin like this doesn't just represent a cent, it represents survival. It represents decades of perfect preservation, an event so unlikely that only a handful of these gems exist. The difference in value between a normal circulated penny and a top-graded red gem can be shocking. A common circulated example might only be worth a few cents, while a museum-quality example can reach into 4 or even 5 figures. Another factor that enhances the value of the 1958 penny is error collecting. While most 1958 pennies were struck normally, collectors always search for possible errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, or repunched mint marks. Even minor die varieties can give the coin special desirability. Though the 1958 is not famous for major errors the way some earlier wheat penny dates are, minor varieties do exist and can boost interest. Every year, new collectors enter the world of numismatics, and the demand for iconic wheat pennies continues to grow. This keeps the value of high-quality 1958 pennies strong. People love collecting pennies from the last year of any series because they symbolize the end of a design, a moment sealed in history. The Wheat Penny series was beloved for decades, and its departure made the 1958 and 1958 cents automatically significant. What also keeps this coin interesting is that many people still find them today. They appear in old jars, boxes of inherited coins, or collections tucked away by parents and grandparents. Sometimes, people discover them in rolls purchased from banks or old estates. Most of these pennies are worn, but every once in a while, someone finds one that looks untouched, shiny, and almost new. That's when the real excitement begins. The thrill of searching for rare pennies is what keeps this hobby alive. People love the idea that a tiny copper coin from more than 60 years ago could still be hiding in plain sight. They love the mystery of not knowing what they might find. The 1958 penny represents this excitement perfectly, a coin that is common in numbers, yet special in condition. A coin that reminds collectors that value isn't always about rarity in mintage. Sometimes it's about rarity in perfection. It's also a coin that proves history can be held in your hand. When you look at a wheat penny from 1958, you're looking at a piece of American life from the end of the 1950s, a time when cars had chrome grills, families gathered around black and white televisions, and children bought candy for a single cent. This coin traveled through an era that shaped the modern world. It passed through shops, survived decades, and now sits in collections as a reminder of who we were and how far the country has come. Collectors often say that coins are storytellers, and the 1958 wheat penny proves that statement true. It tells a story of the end of a classic design, the peak of the American minting industry, and the unexpected value that can emerge from the simplest objects. And because millions of people grew up seeing these wheat pennies, there is a nostalgic connection to the series that ensures it will always have a special place in numismatic history. Today, the 1958 penny continues to surprise collectors with its market performance. Auctions regularly show strong demand for high-quality examples, and every year the competition grows as more people learn about the value hidden within these copper coins. Whether you are a beginner or an experienced collector, the 1958 penny is a coin worth paying attention to, especially if you find one with brilliant color, sharp details, and spotless surfaces. And now, for the most exciting part of this story, the highest recorded auction price for an exceptional 1958 Lincoln Wheat Penny reached an astonishing $13,477.